Hello and good evening and good day or good morning, depending on where you are in this world. Hello and welcome to another Soul Vibes. My name is Alexis Sersha, and I'm so honored and happy to be presenting, to be chatting, to be talking about a subject matter that is close to my heart. Actually, it is one of my very, very favorite thing to talk about, really. And it is this soul connection, everything to do with the soul. And, being part of this creation, being part of the soul, being a facet of the soul means that, of course, everything in life is part of the soul, because you as a human, we as a human, we never ever are really disconnected. But of course, this game of earth does mean, and it did mean, that we've experienced that disconnected feeling. Even though it is an illusion, it is still incredibly strong and incredibly seductive to be pulled into that separation. And of course, our daily life, everyday life of the human is designed to feel that separation. And we often, most people never examine their lives, even though, in these days, the energies and everything that is happening around us means that people are invited to, whether, some people like it or not, to look deeply into what means anything to them, because, of course, the systems, the old traditions, and all of the things that used to make people feel very safe, of course, are crumbling, and are no longer, giving people that safety. I'm just going to check all of the parameters that I am on here, that I'm recording, and that it's all working. I think it is. And so this connection with the soul, it is one of the biggest, hugest journeys that each one of us can, of course, experience. And so this Soul Vibes, even though I talk quite a bit about all of the different things, and as I mentioned, anything and everything in life that one can talk about has to do with the soul, because soul is part of you. You are part of the soul, and everything that you see and experience and interact with really is in this way soul. Now, there are other programs, and other people that specifically talk about the technical or perhaps scientific way. But here I use all the different words, and as you know, words are not always exact descriptions, because all of these experiences are beyond any words, but words we must use. So, I invite you to come into this incredible space that all of us, each one of you or me that are participating, whether live or watching this later, we're co-creating together this incredible safe space, expanded space, where we're exploring this connection. We're deepening this connection. And if you have been attracted to participate in this, and or any of my programs, or things that I do, and of some of others, it is because you have all of a sudden noticed us, people that are walking integrated with soul to whatever degree. It's always a percentage, but we often are outside of the view. And as you, each one of you, are outside of the view of certain people until they make decisions, until they are ready, and all of a sudden you notice certain people, and all of a sudden you notice what they're saying, and also what they were, what's perhaps their material, or what they're trying to describe. And also, if you have been all of you have been part of, the spiritual movement, or in whatever way, for a long time, many lifetimes. So it's not that anyone is new to this. And yet, when you really start feeling the soul, when it becomes a reality, when it becomes a tangible experience, to whatever degree that each can notice, that is a whole new ball game. So you can be part of the spiritual circles, or you can be part of all of the different, movements, and perhaps working with energy and things. But you could do this as I have also for a long time, until that time when something happens, or perhaps you just feel that, okay, I now am ready to really feel this. Because we talk about the soul, and we talk about, and as I said in these programs, I use soul, higher self, I am, that I am, very interchangeably. We don't define them really that much, but because we want to feel them, we want to experience that presence. Whatever the words that we use, doesn't matter as much as, that presence, and whatever definition that we use doesn't matter as much as to actually feel her, him, to experience that presence. And so for me also, that time came, when I thought, wow, I really do want to feel this tangible presence, this thing that is soul. Because I did wake up one day and I realized, wow, I didn't really feel it. I was so involved, and I thought, okay, I'm a master. And I was, because many things have happened and I was able to change so many things. But there is always the next level. There is always the next layer. And so when you do make that decision, you choose on a deep level as human, you have chosen, then all of a sudden, life becomes even more simple. And even after, perhaps when you've been walking with this presence, awareness of soul for years, there comes a time for the next level, and the next level, and the next level. Because the being in separation has been such a huge journey. Each one of us dived into that lifetime after lifetime, and we have accumulated so many things. And especially, let's say, if we were born in a very, perhaps, very older energy, if we're not 20 or 15 or 25 or whatever anymore, means that we've spent a lot of our time in that old thick energy. It means that there are layers and layers that need to go, that need to cleanse, that need to change. And there are so many things along the way that happen that changes the human to accommodate that presence. Not only the human as you as a consciousness, but also within the body. The body needs to clean and cleanse. And so for maybe also through this journey, it happens that perhaps you get a certain disease or something like that happens. And this is one of the biggest, not challenges, perhaps a little bit rude or shocking awakenings, in that you realize that, wow, the human had certain images to what this soul, being with soul and dancing with soul, is going to be. But it actually, a lot of it also includes very uncomfortable things, meaning, during the day, some things or within your life become extremely uncomfortable. And that has, and like when you initially think, well, now I feel that presence, so shouldn't life now be comfortable? And then we can maybe blame ourselves. Maybe I'm not allowing enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not master enough. But really, the depth of your connection that you are unraveling within yourself goes into eternity, goes to forever, goes into everything that is, all that you are. And so, you can experience all of these good things and exciting things, and always there are, because as soon as you really feel that presence, life becomes extremely delicious and sensual and juicy. You know, you feel this presence oiling your everything on the inside, your emotions, your feelings, the organs of the body. You know, there, it's kind of like that sacred oil that you know, it's in ancient text. That's how it feels. And yet at the same time, all of those things, of course, that do not serve this newfound connection, or you know, this new awareness. And that is at any level of this that you are at, because it never ends. It then, those parts, of course, become quite uncomfortable, and you become more and more and increasingly more aware of where, you know, things are not as it should be. And this should that I'm using here is not in a way that, oh, I should do this or I should do that, but there are things within one's life that support this relationship of human and soul. And of course, there are other things that support the separation. And then the separation, those things that support the separation have to, of course, go. And you become increasingly, of course, aware of all of those things in your family life, in your personal relationship, in the way you relate with yourself, in relationship with, you know, a job, in society, to everything. And so I'm not also, you know, saying anything new here, because all of you have been, you know, being aware and experienced all of these things. And yet again, the next level, you go through a lot of, it's just a reminder, because at the next level, as to where you are, each one is the next level again, can bring up a lot of these things, and again and again and again. And so there's also many things that happen once you really start dancing with your soul, with this presence, that actually it's like you're testing yourself, because as I mentioned, this connection to soul goes into the depth of forever. And as I'm speaking, I know you're feeling that forever. So just go with the words and feel and experience and notice what you are experiencing. So as you're going, as you're feeling it, you know, these incredible depths of yourself, of your soul, of this incredible presence that you're feeling, to whatever degree that you're feeling. So this presence needs space within yourselves. It needs space within your life, and it does as it continually moves this presence into your life. It creates space everywhere. And if there is a constriction, you can feel it in yourself, in the cells of your body. Wherever there is a constriction, it may perhaps hurt. It may create some body issues along the way. And it may become uncomfortable, and you cannot actually turn away from those things anymore. You cannot look away. They keep coming back and coming back to you to look at and release. And the depths of this release goes beyond anything, the beyond anything that a human can even imagine. You know, it goes through all of the layers and things that we thought were true. Like as a human, things that I thought were true, it just seeps through all of that. And of course, you know, throughout all of that time when you're integrating and dancing with your soul self, of course, everything has to be re-looked at and made my own. And I have to own every single thing that that is in my life, that was in my life. And normally all of the feelings also and emotions that I experienced, whether minute, whether always present, that I didn't even notice that they were present before. Because they may have always been present, always part of my life, that always I have felt them. They come into focus one by one, or a few together, depending on how they relate to each other. And so slowly but surely, this presence, this soul, tangible, real being, seeps through every single thing in your life, every emotion, every feeling, every event, every part of you, whether you were an inner child, a teenager, and all of the other parts, whether when you were at school, a single person, a married person, whatever identities that you've had throughout your life and that you still have, it seeps, it tangibly seeps through them. I often liken it to if you have that parched, if you imagine that cracked land, parched, dry land, and all of a sudden gets rain, and initially, that juicy rain has trouble seeping through, because that land, that soil is so squashed, so hard to squash together, that it doesn't have any space to make for that water, the molecules of water to penetrate it, to seep through it. And yet slowly but surely they do. And so this is kind of what it feels like, what it felt like to me. And then there are so many different stages. There are stages where initially the soul self, for many, as you know, it came through to me as Michael, when I worked with a gentleman who channels, Michael, and that's where I met my soul self. And because Michael's courses and things were perfect for me, it felt like every time every next week, it's almost like he was reading my life. And for me, those initial few years, it felt like, and I was in the inner space, I was in the boot camp of Michael's. And it was tough, but gee, I enjoyed it, because afterwards I felt this incredible all the benefits of all of the things that he has taught me. And when I say he, I talk about this presence, this soul, because all of these things have happened on the inside. So the boot camp was not something that I actually had to go and drive to. I don't know if majority of my stuff I've done online. I've been rarely to any live workshops or anything like that, but I've done a lot. I know what's going around, who's who, and all of that, but I've done it all online. And for me, it's kind of been this has been such a good thing for me, because I always have said, okay, I want this presence of my soul in my life. And the center of my life is where I am. That's the center of my life. That's the center of my world. That's the center of the universe. And whenever I would feel pulled into, let's say, you see your friends doing things, and you have online friends, or perhaps people in the same groups, and you get pulled into all these different directions, I would always come back to self. My life is the raw material that my soul is seeping through. And it's not something on the other side of the wall, that grass is greener somewhere else. Wherever I was, that's where my soul is. And when I really started feeling my soul, the presence, then it was so incredibly tangible and so incredibly mesmerizing and pleasurable. It really had to do with the simplicity of my life. It really just had to do for me was, I was just sitting in nature. I remember that first week when I said, okay, I'm really going to do this. I committed. Somehow I found this ability inside of me to commit to the 2 hours just sitting on the beach, and it can be anywhere. Can be in your bed with your headphones on and music. Can be, some people staring at the candle or whatever it is, but it's just that incredible commitment. Whatever happens, I'm going to spend 2 hours for the next 2 weeks just being and just bringing that presence, coming back to self. And your soul self knows exactly. Your soul self knows all of your intimate details of your life, even before you feel as a human connected. And so as soon as you make that real decision and make that real choice, then a whole lot happens. And even if you are in a different space now, you've been doing that for a while, but you want the next level, you come to the next level of commitment. And when something changes, you feel all of these things become so tangible within you, and you become so aware and so able to really notice and to know it's not just a theory. It is not just something listening on the outside or listening to someone talking about it, but there are real experiences in the simplicity of your life, in where you are in the center of your own universe. And so for me, sitting there, just being present with myself, of course, my mind was pulling me into all the different directions, but I just kept on coming back and applying that self-love. Come back to self, feel love, because that creates that openness, and feel myself in the now moment. And again, and my mind would go in the past, come back. And when I noticed, then again in the future, come back into the worry, come back. But it's what I found it incredible really is how quickly things start happening. So it was like on a day 3, I think, if not more, could be the day 2, I probably started noticing things. But on day 3, it was unmistakable. I felt the tangible presence in a way that I could communicate with my soul. And when I felt that tangible presence, I knew straight away that this is the soul. I knew that it's incredible. All these knowingness you have it on the inside. It's not like you need someone else on the inside of you to tell you this is your soul. It's unmistakable. Oh, sorry, my hair. And once I felt it so clearly, so consciously for the first time in such a conscious way. Firstly, what I realized is that I felt that it was always present. I just didn't realize that that's what that was. And it kind of almost feels like, that there is something that I imagined in fantasy, those feelings. I imagined them in fantasy, but they felt like they weren't real because they were so fine. But once I noticed it the first time, then even though there are many, many stages, when the soul retreats and it kind of comes back and retreats for all the different experiences that then you have. But once I consciously felt it, then no one could actually then tell me that it doesn't exist, or that it's not real, or that I wouldn't recognize it again. Although as you go through things, it does change. Like as your frequency and vibration change, it's kind of like how that presence also changes. And I know that there have been times when I thought, wow, have I lost the connection again? But it's just changed. And I had to then learn, that's what it feels like now. Although that feeling of let's say, when I feel, okay, this is the presence of my soul, I choose it. Let's say, I wake up in the morning and say, okay, I'm going to feel that radiance. Well, the radiance is different than that tangible presence of my soul. And I feel her, and it can be him, it can be an it. There are so many things that really don't matter. What do you call yourself by a name? What do you refer to your soul as? Do you call her as a her? Do you call her as a him? Do you call him as a it? None of these things matter, because it is this presence that is so close to you and so underneath your awareness always. So let's say if I expand my awareness, and my soul could tickle me underneath that awareness. It can come to me from underneath that awareness. And then again, my awareness, let's say over time, expands, and still the soul comes from outside of that awareness. It is because of that no space, no time. It is not in the space and it is not in time. And so, however, as a human, my awareness increases, there's always more and more and more. And the soul is already there. You as a soul is already there. And so then, of course, you have all sorts of experiences, and then perhaps, you have certain experiences where the opposite happens, and you get disappointed. Like things would happen, and I would sort of question, do I feel the soul? Is it real? Why are these bad things happening to me, even though I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do? But a lot of it all of it has some kind of reasoning and a purpose behind it. And one of them is also that, this connection, this awareness of being connected goes underneath or beyond everything that human imagines or thinks or experiences. And so even the experiences, for example, let's say something that you're walking beautifully with the soul, and you're aware, and you're, joyful, and all sorts of wonderful experiences you have, and boom, something bad happens. You might have a car accident. You might have a disease. You might have all sorts of things, and then you realize that actually the sole purpose of the soul connection, or not even its purpose, but the soul connections goes beyond all of this. It's not like, let's say, you might let's say you have a friend on a human level, and maybe that friend does something horrible to you or betrays you, and maybe you walk away from that friend and you're not friends anymore. But with the soul self, that's not possible. You are your soul. So you as a human are a part of the soul. You're a facet of the soul. And so you're always connected. And so your connection goes beyond all of those things that you consider as a human bad, whether that's a bad accident or bad disease or bad whatever. It goes beyond death, because it's eternal. And so these kind of things happen, and you realize as a human, wow, it doesn't matter. Even if my life completely fell apart, and even if I never felt joy again or happiness, or even if as a human I would have a terrible life even after I've become aware of my soul, the soul connection is stronger than all of this. And it is not that that will actually happen, because once you really come to this kind of awareness, you see, once you realize that, then that pattern can change. You're no longer bound, and you're no longer a slave to that pattern that you thought, or that not representation, like a misunderstanding that you have about soul and human relationship. The misunderstanding in this case was that, that your soul relationship is dependent on good emotions, on positive things, on good things happening. But the grit that you get through this journey actually has to do because you realize that you can handle anything, and that whatever happens, whatever, let's say, in the world, betrayal and whatever's happening at the moment, let's say, wars and all of these things. And, if you know people in the past, the saints and our dear friends of the past, some have experienced that connection while they were in the worst kind of things. Let's say Yeshua on the cross had that kind of unbreakable awareness of himself as a soul. Tobias in prison, Kutumi in a madhouse, I think, or something like that. He was bound by disease for 2 years, and then realized that even beyond that is soul. And the thing is that it's not that one has to create that, even though there will be, of course, because a human's lives consist of so many of the things that are damaging to self. Because what is considered normal is actually quite not normal, it's quite damaging to humans. And that's why there are so many problems. People have so many issues, but the thing is that all of these things don't matter. And to have that kind of unbreakable bond, not that this bond with soul can ever be broken because you're part of it, but it has to do with why each one of us are here on earth in experience. We are in experience to experience these kind of things. And for example, for those that are going through these kind of perhaps difficult, life-threatening things, the most challenging that you've ever faced, it has to do with also that the bond with your soul self is beyond any of it. And once you actually have these kind of deep experiences, then you realize there is nothing in the whole world, there is nothing in the universe, metaverse, or whatever word or image that you have, whether in time or in space or outside, that can break that trust that you have built with your soul self, with that presence, whether you give that presence a name or it introduces itself with a certain name or not, or you just know it as presence and you name this one. These are the things really that, as I mentioned before, there are so many things that we get really stuck upon that really don't matter. How you refer as to what you want. And this is the freedom of the inner world, that no one else can, whether that person is a physical body or whether it's one of our ascended non-physical friends. There comes a time, and when you really make that choice to get serious with your soul self, then when in majority of in these decisions, it is just you and your soul. There is no third person, whether that third person is physical or non-physical. There is just you and your soul. And that is the meaning of that sovereign space. And within that sovereign space, there are no others. You are the authority, but not you as a mind, not you as a human of the old, the separate human, because that human, you know, as you're dancing, as you're walking with your soul, that human slowly dissolves, because that human was based on separation, on very erroneous, wrong ideas about self, about soul, about divinity, about sacredness, about all of these things. But as you're walking and as you're becoming this trust that builds, that is unbreakable, unshakable, because you realize that when you are then in that space where you realize, wow, nothing in this world or out of this world can shake this bond that I have, this love, my self-love. It is not dependent. It's independent. It's sovereign, my self-love. It's sovereign of all the acts that happen out in the world. It's sovereign. It's independent of anything that any human or anyone else can do to me or say to me or not do to me or withhold, or none. And just to get to that space, there are a lot of experiences that happen. And again, we sometimes, I know that as a human, Alexis was asking, why do I have to experience this? Because very often certain experiences were very uncomfortable, or like when I had to learn to say no to people, or to even come out, let's say, doing this work and speak my own truth. I mean, these were very confronting things. And yet with this being held, with this being nurtured, supported from your own self, from your soul self, you can just do one step by step by step, and you find yourself saying things and doing things that you never thought, that I never thought I would. And at the same time, it isn't the most easiest things to be direct, to be saying things. You do lose quite a few people along the way until they ready, they come back and they realize, wow, they actually like this kind of directness, not rudeness, but when you just cut through that bullshit and the macchio. So and again, all of those uncomfortable feelings, like it's very uncomfortable if you're not used to it, to be able to say what you need or your feelings, and especially, let's say, with a partner, with someone that you care, if they were to walk away, that those are the hugest things. And yet, like this beautiful instrument, you can, and it's, you kind of, as you're doing that, and as you realize that your feelings and your emotions and what's happening within you actually are sacred and matters, you matters to what you feel and what you perceive. It matters infinitely, your feelings and your emotions and your perceptions and your point of view, and they are sacred. And that's where then all of a sudden automatically you feel that incredible self-worth that then, of course, even goes out of vocabulary. Words like self-worth, I mean, we have to use them, but to explain things, but as in like just being me with me, there are a lot of words that are meaningless. Worth and self-worth and no worth is meaningless in this space when you are feeling connected with your soul, and there is nothing in between. And so for people, as you're going through the difficult things, that also is in between, that connection, because the intimacy with you as a human and the soul self, it means there is nothing in between. There is nothing, there is no misconceived idea, or there is no resentful feeling. There is no emotion that is in between. It means that as a human, you are free to feel any emotion, because the soul is not a stranger to any emotion. The soul wants you real, wants your real responses, not pretense. It wants to, and it's not afraid of any taboo emotions. It doesn't mean you act on them, but anything that you feel, that's incredible freedom to feel what you want to feel and what comes for you naturally. Whether that's, all of the things that, you would never dare to feel before, you were told not to. They're not good emotions. They're not allowed. You can feel anything if you feel them, and that's your truth. Soul wants that. It is not afraid. It does not have that low ego thing where it's touchy and you have to walk on eggshells around it. It can look you in the eye on the inside with anything that you feel, and you can feel it, and that's what it wants. And so, even like, for example, let's say if there are difficult things happening in the life, just it's allowing that to flow, allowing that to flow, and allowing that to flow away, to melt that hardness, that whatever is in between, the barrier that's in between you and your soul self. It melts away until there is nothing left, until you are this oneness of yourself. And then the fun begins, because all of a sudden then you are oneness always, and you can act whatever you want. You can act, you can be, you can give yourself names, you can give your parts names, you can create and uncreate as many parts of yourself as you want. It matters not, because you are then in that incredible playfulness of self. And so, it's an incredible journey. And the reason, of course, why we are here. Whenever that I wondered, why am I experiencing this? Why am I not just all of a sudden, boom, in that fully connected space, But it is because the earth, it is the reason for earth and physicalness is to experience all the different things along the way. For example, let's say if you say, you say, okay, I want to be a great, I don't know, physicist, a scientist, or whatever, you as a soul want to experience how you got there, and every little step in between, what you have to let go of, what you have to take on, what you have to manifest and own, and all of the things that change, how other people react to you and whatever that you're doing. So all of these things on a way, whether some are pleasant, some are not so pleasant, even though as you walk longer and longer with your soul, you start really as a human also to have its perspective, and you look at things in a different way. And so it's not so much that you charge things anymore with a positive or a negative charge, this is a positive thing, this is a negative thing. It just is, and it's all you, and it's all your creations and co-creations with others. But there are preferences. There definitely are preferences. It does slowly kind of move into that positive sphere of life, because you just become so good at handling things, of handling the reality, of handling your own emotions, because you now know all of those things are sacred. You are sacred. All of the bits and parts in your life are sacred. So there's so many things that go topsy-turvy, turn on inside out, not just on its head, but inside out, because what seemed like something represented, the inside out of that is quite different, and that's normally the soul's view, is the inside out is quite a different point of view of things, and you become as the soul is more present, of course, you've expanded you've raised your vibration. It just automatically happens as you allow more and more of that presence. And so there's a lot of things just fall out if you don't have any, not so much lesson into something, but that it doesn't serve you anymore. It'll just fall away. And by that time, you also have learned how to not fit in the old way, but find a way to navigate, to move, to be a ninja of the reality of your local, where you live, and the society that you live in, and things within family, and things that you have to do, and to have a physical human life, and they become enjoyable, like, for example, just everyday things, even just cooking, like with Michael present, my soul present, all of a sudden that becomes, my kitchen is a chemistry lab, because that's what it is. It's like you're changing the chemical structure of foods that you would, but via heat, applying heat, by cooking, by fermenting, by whatever have you. So it's interesting to, when you allow that presence to be with you, it goes through many, many different stages. And so one of the stages that it feels like another being has come to your life, when you really start feeling the presence of soul. For me, it felt like another being. And so it made sense to give that being a name, or rather it named itself. It gave me the name. I just knew the name. And then, you go through all the different metamorphoses, and then all of a sudden you feel like, okay, so it's the nameless one, when you realize, wow, it doesn't have a name, because it's beyond any names. And yet you come back into this world, into human self, and again you think, well, it's okay to give it a name. There are no rules, like how I interact on the inside with myself. It's up to me. It helps to perhaps, be interacting with others in a similar space, or, it's a greatly helped by non-physical friends, by Yeshua, by, Saint Germain, by all of these people. They greatly help us. But in our sovereign space, they are not there. They have their own sovereign space. They have their own ideas of things. They are their own beings. And so there comes a time when you are, that it's okay to say, okay, step aside a little bit, because I am the king and the queen in my sovereign space. I decide what things mean. And for me, there was definitely a time when my soul self guided me out of all of the groups and things, and not to be lonely or anything, but just to actually really learn to follow my own voice, and to hear my own voice of soul self. And sometimes for a while, what I found really helpful and supportive, and I had to divorce myself from that a bit, because I realized, wow, I can't anymore give that authority to another, whether they're physical or non-physical, to decide for me what I feel, what I think, how I name things or don't name things, what I'm into or not into, because a group can travel a certain way, but I, as an individual, and the soul will guide me until it's you as a soul are then aware that, okay, so this human now knows how to, and it will, if there is a choice where the choice has to be made, whether to follow someone else's ideas, or your soul self ideas of things, if they differ, not that they're right or wrong, it's got nothing to do about right or wrong, but it is just about coming back to self. You see, you are not in a sovereign space if you give authority to someone else to decide on things for you. It's a very subtle, there are very, you come into world of subtlety. There is nothing wrong, and there is nothing one has to tell others about or tell them they shouldn't or should. It's got nothing to do with that. It is just that because these things, the soul connection, happen one by one. They are one by one. They are not a group thing. So your sovereign space is not a group thing. It's a one by one thing. It's you thing. And so when you are ready, each individual are ready, then it's got nothing to do with others, except for that you, as your own individual sovereign being, have to start to really make those kind of decisions. And initially it may feel like going against inside, these are inside experiences, going against something, because perhaps if, as humans, we are taught to give authority, to not bow, to put someone else on that pedestal, whether they're physical or non-physical, whether they're ideas or whether they're whatever they are. But when you're ready, when you are in that space where you are, becoming a real sovereign being, then you are the one who decides for yourself, not for others, but not for no one else, for yourself, what things mean to you. When you experience something, you don't need to ask someone else. You practice, okay, so this, or wait for someone else to explain what's happened to you. You practice, okay, so this has happened. What does it mean? These were my dreams. What did they mean to me? And then whatever comes to you, you accept that as real. And don't gaslight yourself, because whatever you say is real is real. And even though initially it may, let's say, it may be a little bit off, that you don't, but because you've given that intent and you made a choice, and you actually are now acting on that makes it real. You own it. It is yours. And then it becomes real. It is so that ability then for you to really know what you feel, what you think, what things mean to you, then becomes real, And so experiment, try, dare, because when you start really to walk with your soul, it is really that one-to-one thing, and friends will support you, people that we have, non-physical being that we have in our lives, Yeshua, Mary Magdalene, Kutumi, Saint Germain, all of our friends, whomever that, Raphael, all of our friends, non-physical friends, will support us, whomever you're close to. Yeshua helped me enormous amounts, when I was too serious, and he would just, in the back of my mind, just laugh at things, and all of a sudden I realized, oh shit, I'm too serious, I have to, let's make humor out of this. And he made my life so much easier, because you're still living within the peoples that are not free in that way. And also you do go into very much your own, but at the same time, once again, you come back a full spiral, whatever, because at the same time, once again, like, you go away and you come back again to your friends and to your group, but you come back. Every time you come back, you become more sovereign and free. And as I said, it doesn't mean nothing even has to be said or shared or anything, or convinced others, but you just find a way to find a similar language, to speak to others. Because again, when you do really feel your soul, you constantly are going into a smaller and smaller circle of people. Because, you know, like, let's say you can be doing some spiritual work, let's say you can be doing grid work, and I'm talking this energetic work, or you can be doing all sorts of different group work, but that doesn't mean you feel your soul present. You are in a way aware, otherwise you wouldn't be there. But this real tangible presence or an awareness of soul is a whole new thing, it's a whole next level. And as you're going there, the whole next level, a lot of different experiences. In very many of these experiences are you with you. And this comes as perhaps as a surprise, because, and that's not to say that you don't have any other person around you, but on the inside, it is like there's definite experiences with this. The inside, it is like the space has been created. You've created that space, and there is that space where no one else can enter. It's other people are not even aware of that. So even if anyone tried to go into that space, it is just you and you and you. Whether you consider yourself, you know, because you go through stages where, for me, I went through stages when I felt myself Trinity, as a Trinity. You know, there was human and a soul, and I am that I am. There were very three specific experiences. Then became oneness, but whatever. It was me with me with me. There was no one else, no partner, no child, no relative, no idea, no ascended being, no non-physical friend. There is a space within you. And when you work with soul and you, that's what you work with, is that space where it's just you and you. And of course, then you come out in that outer space, there's everyone else, and there's, you know, of course, dimension where there's the presence of non-physical beings and all sorts of dimensions. It is not lonely, although there, for me, there was a definite experience when I went. I was one time lying on the sofa, as I often would at those times in the afternoon. It's like I would just get this urge to take a nap, but it was that incredible space where you go, you know, where you're half asleep, half awake. And I remember, like, at that time I was sort of feeling through my depression and all of these kind of feeling of loneliness and aloneness and desperate and all of those kind of feelings. So I was quite low, not meaning feeling low, but low as in the depths of me. I don't know how else to explain it, like low somewhere. And I just felt myself descend. I allowed myself just to descend until I came to what it felt like a bottom. And that was underneath, beyond any depressions, diseases, feelings of loneliness, feelings of all of that. And I realized, wow, in this nothingness, I am still, I exist, I am. I can feel, it wasn't a thought, it was a feeling. I can feel I am. And that's, you know, and I realized, wow, in this space, it is just me. I am alone in this space. And it wasn't a feeling of loneliness, but it was a relief, because I realized in this space, this is my sovereign space. And even though at that time I didn't really know that much about it, or it wasn't big space, I realized that I exist no matter what underneath. And that actually, that experience, that tangible experience, actually accelerated then my ability to be present within my own sovereign space, me with me, soul, me and soul. And so, yeah, it's a whole next level. And as you're traveling with this, you really also go through all of these layers of beliefs. Like, for example, like scientific beliefs, for example, that we don't even know, religious beliefs, that we don't always know that how much they control within us, how much control they have within us, those patterns. But you go through these things when you realize, wow, like let's say, Newton said, like for example, scientists, you have a Newton who was a very much like a clockwork type of scientist, and then next one would be Einstein, who was a much more everything's relative. So Einstein had to go through that defined clock type of reality within himself to come to the more flexible fluid place and to realize that no, this is not how reality works. And so in this way, it's like I'm not falling. This doesn't feel like falling, but it's like when you realize, wow, even this is subject to change, to how I relate to this. Nothing is set in stone. So whatever belief systems, whatever to do with health, for example, let's say, what is possible, what is not possible, all of those, you kind of seep through all of those ideas and things, and you come on the other side and you realize that nothing is set in stone, that the physical reality, it's really vibrating. It's this particle, photons of light interacting and vibrating, and there's nothing set in stone. It is only set in stone if I have those patterns within, and then they are unbreakable. If the belief systems that each one of us holds are unbreakable until you break them or melt them or float them or whatever, but and then they no longer are. And then as I change my, I'm able to let go of certain things, and all of a sudden I notice others that are also in that space where they've left a particular rule, and that there are many people, not billions, but there are many people who are quite in very different spaces than majority of population, but you don't really notice them or see them until you actually are in that space yourself as well. So to my surprise, it's and all different kinds of people, and not even people that have been into spiritual journeys at all. Or yes, you have to just let go of this preconceived ideas about these people. And but like, because at one stage it looked like, wow, am I just by myself? And all of a sudden then the next stage was like, wow, actually there are some wonderful people around that I can befriend, that I can interact with, that or even not befriend, just to know that they are doing their thing, research or whatever they're doing in their field of their chosen whatever. And it's quite incredible to sort of feel that, and yet that they are to that certain extent in a similar space, in similar realm than you are, because of how they see things, how they perceive, and what scientific or other things they're able to see and invent and perceive and feel with the heart. But there is a certain level or layer where people, regardless of whether they're spiritual or not spiritual, you cannot enter the next level. There comes a certain level, then cannot enter if you don't open your heart. And when you hear those people, that regardless of what profession, what station, what nationality, whatever they are, and they are in that space, you can feel that they too have opened their heart somewhere along the way. They're either meditating, either through meditation or through whatever. And the young people, of course, some have never had their hearts closed. So there are spaces, realms, new earth realms, very, very they're here. But they require person to be able to perceive them, to enter those spaces, so to speak, to have their heart open. And so that's the difference, you know, and they may not fit within their fields or whatever, but once you start perceiving those spaces, I mean, yeah, some people can close the doors for a while, but you know, once your eyes or one eye or two wide opens, you cannot unsee. It's pretty much you're there, but it really is something I would suggest, because even though it's a tough journey, because you know, you do experience things beyond any other human, because you know how I sometimes feel, not that have gone, for example, you know, like almost I feel like someone who's come from the war front or something, but not that I've actually gone and fought someone, but it's kind of like, let's say, you know, if someone has had that kind of intense experience, then they come back and they're very, very different because of what they've seen, what they've perceived, what they felt. And you know, other people, unless they've actually gone to those spaces, to travel to those spaces, they can't relate. But experiencing that, going beyond, you know, the fear of death, you know, facing that, facing the diseases, facing the magic of being able to just what can be done, or the magic of not being stuck in the old patterns, in the old stories, the freedom from this, experiencing your own sovereign space, experiencing soul. You don't have to wonder anymore, is soul real, or what are we missing? You know, there was an interview I watched the other day with Elon Musk, and in there he said, you know, we've done all of these scientific things, but we are missing something. And here we are. We're not missing anything anymore. We might be at different stages, at different percentages of awareness or whatever, and there's never really an end to this. So, you know, when I say stages and percentages, still very relative because we have to use words, but it's all you with you, where you've been before, where you are now. It's not like in comparison to anyone else. But we don't have to wonder anymore these kind of things, because we know there is more, and we feel it, and we are it, and we live it. And that is very, so rare, you know, so far. It is so rare. And for me, you know, it is my passion that I'm realizing is more and more just this connection, you know, with the soul, to speak about this, to channel this, to perhaps inspire others to transform into this connection with soul. It's probably my biggest passion. And you know, before there was a lot of different things, but this connection between a human and a soul, I think, for me at the moment is the biggest passion. And so I invite you, you know, to just dive into it and to continue, just like me too, you know, there's always more, and to keep transforming and transmuting and allowing anything that is in your life, regardless of where you are with anything. And remember, the raw materials are your life. Your life is the raw material of your soul and of you, the divine human. And you don't have to go anywhere else. You are where you are, is the most sacred space for you. You don't have to go anywhere, but you can go anywhere. You know, there are no rules in this way. And so I invite you deeply, because we've journeyed, you know, we're coming back into this we've been in now moment, but we've journeyed quite a bit through realms. But we come back into the room where you are, so to speak, into your body. You become aware again of your body. And I invite you to keep allowing, to keep feeling, to keep honoring, and to keep self-loving, because this is the simplicity of life, the quietness. Even though perhaps you may play the loudest of music or be like me, the drummer, I drum, I do all sorts of things. And yet always there is that quietness of you with you, the human in your soul, in oneness, or in all the different parts that you can be. It's a dance. It's a relationship that keeps changing and keeps evolving and it keeps expanding. And it is this incredible, juicy feeling when you really feel it, that this journey is actually eternal, that you have eternity to explore this, to dance this, to play with this. And that is such a different feeling from what a normal human feels, that fleetingness of life, of their being, that they will cease existing. And yet, in this incredible juicy feeling, not you wish, but and you feel, and it is just bubble of joy to know that you are eternal, feel yourself and experience yourself eternal, and that all the forms that you are, even including this human that looks at you back when you look in a mirror, are just temporary, incredible, divine, beautiful, but also temporary. And at the same time, they also are eternal, because you as a soul exist in a timeless space, outside of time, outside of space. And in that space, even this human is forever and never dies, never is born. Or if you look at it this way, it's always being born over and over again, because you are timeless and you know it. And so it is, dear friends. I think we've come to the end of this episode. And I think I'll send you the email with the link to the recording within a couple of hours. It depends on how long it takes for the YouTube to upload. But we are in this incredibly beautiful space, I feel. And I invite you to keep coming back to this space. Okay. Until next time, thank you.